always a pleasure to come to Ringwood East, of course. I consider this to be my second home. Last time I was here, you remember, it was the anniversary, and I spoke about how the church was built and a bit about the history about the church. And I also said that the next time I came here, I would talk about how I became a spiritualist. Now, I have in the past given you some insights into this because I've shared with you some of the bits and pieces of why this happened, but I've never ever actually given the whole story. When I was president, sitting in this chair, and I used to listen to people give talks, I used to be quite fascinated by the stories of how people became spiritualists. And I hope you find this interesting as well. Each spiritualist is expected to believe only verifiable facts and proof through their own personal experience. Our president read out just a few moments ago. Indeed, that is the basis of spiritualism. So, if I go back and tell you that as a young man I was taught, I'm a technologist, so I was taught to think in certain ways. And because I enjoyed doing my work, very, very much enjoyed it, my mind became enmeshed in that method of thinking, which is systematic, logical thinking. You're going to solve problems, particularly technology type problems, the only way to think is systematically and logically. That type of thinking spills over into all facets of life. So at the time I was a Christian, I stopped being Christian because I started to think of Christianity in systematic, logical terms, and it just didn't stack up. So at the age of 20 I stopped being a Christian. Never really lost the sense of there being a God somewhere. I have no idea what this thing was. I have a bit more of an idea now, but I still don't know. And so for a long time I was in limbo land, you might call it. Let me say, first of all, that you cannot prove the existence of God. Doesn't matter which way around you put it. You cannot run an experiment in a laboratory, you know, with tubes and electronics or whatever you want to put together, and so here we are, there's the existence of God. It cannot be done. On the other side, it's very difficult to disprove as well. But as the atheists would point out, the onus of proof is on those making the claim. So you realise that when I started to venture into this philosophy, I had a lot of problems. And just to give you an idea of how, so I do believe the Spirit and their wisdom had somehow marked me out to build this place, and they actually shaped my life from way back then, when I was 20 years old. The very fact that I can stand here in front of you and speak to you was something I could not have done at the age of 25. I was hopeless. I had to teach myself to do this. And my work, I had to give lectures at my work. So you can understand that my work actually started me off on this process of actually being able to stand up here and do this sort of thing. So why am I here? How did I get here? Well, starting in about 1974, when I was 24 years of age, I was married to a Salvation Army girl. But her mother used to go and visit mediums. Just how that happened, I don't know. But I was dragged along one night, and I do mean dragged along. I was very reluctant, and I walked into this place in North Melbourne. There was a lady by the name of Mrs. Roberts. I've never known her by any other name. She's quite a well-known person because the police used to go and consult her occasionally about this and that. And we walked in and she looked at me and said, I'll do you first. Okay. She said a lot of things, but the one thing that she said towards the end stuck with me, and what she said was, in 2 years' time you're going to have problems at work and it will be quite devastating for you, but don't worry about it, it'll all work out fine, and you'll blame the wrong person. So 2 years later, exactly that situation come up, and I thought, I better not blame the wrong person. So I thought and thought about this situation, and in the end I thought, she must have been wrong, because there can only be one person who could have been responsible for this. But I tried to be, I just thought, I didn't go out and attack anybody or anything like that. I just kept quiet, because I had it in the back of my mind, but I could be wrong. Well, 4 years later, I found out that I was wrong. I was wrong. I totally misread the situation. There was a situation going on over here that I had no idea about, which had caused all this. And I wasn't to find out about that until 4 years later. And the only reason I found out was because I asked a gentleman who was about to retire. And I said to him, look, it doesn't matter anymore, but I really do want to know what happened. And he told me. So that was my first experience of actually interacting with someone from this philosophy. She was a very good medium. She also, by the way, had a friend of mine there who predicted that he would be married 3 times. He just got married. His wife wasn't there. A year later, he was divorced and married a new lady. And he had 2 children, and right up to the age of 60, he's still married to her. I'm thinking, well, Mrs. Roberts must have been wrong. 2 years later, she divorced him. And then married his 3rd wife. And I performed the marriage ceremony. And I said to Yvonne, I said, listen, I told her about Mrs. Roberts. I said, you're number 3. You're safe. Yes, anyway, so Mrs. Roberts was right. Even though it took decades for that particular one to work itself out. Now, I did try and avoid, because my wife was interested in the spiritualist philosophy, and I avoided it, very much avoided it. Didn't want anything to do with it. Because basically of my experiences with the Christian church, my disappointments with that, how it all fell apart, how I lost a lot of friends. I didn't want that to happen again. But then came the midlife crisis, as it does to a lot of people. The darkness sets in. In my case, I was a very lucky person, because I had a very, very good job and really, really enjoyed working. So all I did was to throw my energies into working, because when you think about technical matters, you tend not to think about the darkness. You're just in another world of technology. And strangely enough, I performed some of my best work was actually during those years when I wasn't happy at all. Very strange. But it got to the point where I actually visited a doctor and got put on medication for about 3 years. My wife said to me, you're really not learning the lesson, are you? Why don't you go to a meditation group? And I said, meditation? Come on now, meditation? Now, by this time, I've read about 20 self-help books. Positive thinking, get out of the rut, all this sort of stuff. None of them did any good. So a year after she'd made the suggestion of going to join a meditation group, I finally gave in. There was nothing else left to do. I really didn't want to be on medication. It was okay, but it had one nasty side effect. You didn't want to get up in the morning. You really didn't want to get up in the morning. It was only the fact that I loved going to work, I was able to overcome that. So it didn't affect me that much, but didn't like the idea of being on medication. So no, I will try it. It's the last thing I ever do. I'm going to try this meditation stuff. So I went, in those days, the only people who ran a meditation group was the Tumberton Spiritual Centre in Upway. So that's where I ended up. Very early 1992. I think it was February. They just opened for the new year. And there I was. Within 3 months, I felt so good. And I mean really, really, really good. And I said to my doctor, I'm going off the medication. And she said, you can't. And I said, well, I am. And I said, I know enough about medication to get off it slowly. I know what to do. And she looked at me and said, okay, fine. And the next time I saw her, I said, I'm off the medication. It took me, instead of 3 months, I actually did it in 1 month. a lot faster than what I'd intended. The next time I saw her, I said to her, I feel really well. She asked me, what have you been doing that is making you feel so well? So I told her, I'm doing a meditation class. And she said, she said, a spiritual thing. She said, well, you'll find that that'll only work for about a year. Because these spiritual cures are not long lasting. What's underneath, bubbling away, is not going to go away. So I said to her, look, no offence, I said, I mean, I do like you. But I said, I hope I never have to see you again. And she took that the right way. She took that the right way. She said, well, I hope you're right for your sake. I never saw her again. I did see her, but not for me. Because on behalf of other people, but not because I had any issues. So technically, I never saw her again because I never went back on the medication. Because what had happened, of course, was somehow these people on the other side were obviously wanting me to somehow get into this philosophy, and I wasn't going to do it. So they made me sick. They forced me into it. Okay, you might say that's a nice thing to do, but when you consider what happened later on, maybe not. Maybe this was the way it was meant to be, and what was intended for me to do from the time I was born, I believe. So that was the health, the self-healing process. Now we come to the problem I have with all this. Because in meditation, I was starting to have some wonderful, wonderful experiences. The bliss, which I'd had once already. The joy that comes with meditation. And I knew that this was a real problem because I'd read enough psychology books, because you're trying to understand why I'm ill. I'm reading Freudian psychology, the development of the ego and all this sort of stuff. And I knew enough about what the mind does to people that it could actually fool you into thinking that this reality over here is actually real when it's not. We used to have places where we used to put these sort of people. Now they're on the streets. But, you know, if you think you're Napoleon or Julius Caesar, the person who thinks that it's real for them. So when I'm having these wonderful experiences, well, what's going on? Is it my own mind making these experiences to make me feel good? Or is there something really out there? Is this the spiritual beings that we keep getting told about? My guide's trying to get through to me. Is that what it is? So this is the night. I've told you the story before, I'm sure. The famous Friday night when it was pouring rain and I was in the study, in meditation, and the bliss came. There's no words to describe this bliss. It's just absolutely beautiful. I was crying. Tears, really. You cannot imagine such love. Just cannot imagine it. And at this point, I reached the point where I said, listen, because I've got tingling, and those of you who know that tingling will know that that's spirit coming very, very close. And I said to them, you will never get me. You will never get me. I said, I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but you will never ever get me, because I'll always be able to say to you, or to myself, this is just my own mind. Just my own mind creating these episodes in order to make myself feel good. And at that point I said, you will have to do something to convince me that this is real. I'm putting the onus on you to do that. However, in return, if you do this for me, in return, I will work for you. I will be your man. Because this obviously is one of the most important things in life, is to recognise that there's something beyond what we call life. There's other dimensions. So I said, you do this for me, and I will work for you. That was Friday night. The next Wednesday night, which was meditation night. I was at Dumbarton again. I had a meditation which I will never forget. It was the only type of that type I've had, never had it since. I'm sitting on a hillside, which is well grassed, leaning on against a tree. There's only one tree in the whole place. There's a little brook running down there, and two bright stars, one on either side of me. Bright, bright, bright stars. So after the meditation, I shared with the leader of the group. It was Rosie Elmer, those of you who know Rosie. And Rosie said to me, "Stop right there. After everybody's had a cup of tea, you come talk to me." So I did all that. I said to her, "Yes, Rosie, what would you like?" Because I thought I'd done something wrong. Yeah, you know, teacher was going to... And she said, "Domenic, those two stars, they were two of your guides. They were talking to me. And they've asked me if I would allow you to join a new circle we're putting together." She said, "Normally, you're just new here. You've only been here for a year. We would not ask you. But how can I say no to your guides? How can I say no to Spirit? So I'm going to ask you, would you like to join a new physical phenomena circle?" I said, "Yes." Now, for those of you who are new, physical phenomena is stuff that happens in the real world caused by Spirit. Table tilting, lights, things whizzing around the room, that sort of stuff. Done on purpose, in this case, in physical phenomenal circles. All right, so that was from the Friday to the Wednesday. So we then started this physical phenomenal circle, and after about we met once a fortnight. There's 8 people in it. Nothing happened for about 2 months. Absolutely nothing. And just as we were all getting a little bit despondent, one night the table tilted. Stayed up there and then went crash, came back down again. And the leader is Violet Eccles. You know, some of you will know Violet Eccles. She was leading that group. She asked them to do that again. So they did. Okay. So I went home, got a table out, and thought, I can fake that. Now, am I a nice person? I don't know. It's just you've got to do this. You've got to ask yourself the hard questions. Is somebody trying to fake it? And this went on, and one of the guys in there, Jeff, he was an electrician, he was putting in a new air conditioning unit. And I said, "Jeff, whilst you're up on the roof, can you check the..." He said, "Yeah, I'm way ahead of you, pal." "I know what you want. You want me to check out for invisible wires." "Yeah, okay, you're on the same wavelength I am." I said, "Yes, yes." So he went up, and he said, "A week later, there's no wires up there. Whilst I was at it, I checked under the floor as well. There's nothing down there either, except a lot of cobwebs." Okay. A couple of weeks later, we finally, because you can manipulate a table easily, and they knew what I was thinking. They could almost read my mind. The table was a round table, and what it did on this particular night was it did a full 360 degrees. And then it went back. So I went home and I thought about that. I thought, no, that's not possible, because I'd have to be in on it too. We would all have to cooperate together very, very carefully to cause that to happen. So that night I thought, no, this is real. This is real. So I went into meditation. I said, "I believe you. You've got me. Okay? Now I'll do my bit and I'll work for you." So I came to the church, this church, which was in Lions Grove in those days, and I said to the librarian, "Would you like an assistant?" "Oh, sure." So I became the librarian's assistant. That same day, on platform, Klaus and Monica Mueller. Monica gave the talk, and Klaus did the demos. And he came to me, and I've never met Klaus at this point. I've never spoken to him anyway. I might have seen him. And he said, "Oh, can I come to you, sir?" "Oh, yeah, sure." So I have this little lady, she's only this tall, and she's dressed in black, and I have no idea why she wants to come to you. He said, "Can you recognise this lady?" And I said, "Yes, I can." But my grandmother. I'm Sicilian. All Sicilian grandmothers are that tall, Christy. So yes, I can recognise this lady. She's never come through before or since. Or since. This is the only time in my whole life that she has come through. And he said to me, I got a message from this lady and it doesn't make any sense at all to me. I hope it makes sense to you. And I said, yeah, okay, what's the message? He said, you've been given the proof you've asked for, now get on with it. Does that make any sense to you? I think you can understand that I was absolutely floored by that. I was absolutely floored by that. I thought, wow. Not only have they given me the physical phenomena side to show me that this is real, but now a meeting comes through and tells me the exact words that I really need to hear. I now understand that mediumship is real as well. I mean, I had no idea it was anyway from Mrs. Roberts, but this was actually spot on stuff, right there. So, what can I say? At that point, I became a spiritualist, a true spiritualist. And it was, 2 years later, I was president of the church. That's, again, the story I told you about last time I was here. Because I think in the end, they wanted somebody with the skills that I had in order to put this place together. The organising skills, the technical abilities, and that doggedness that all Taurians have to work steadily and just keep working, keep going at it and at it and at it and at it and at it. Which is a fine attribute to have when you're trying to find faults in communication systems. It's a good attribute to have too when you want to build something. You just do it a bit at a time. So that was Klaus. And I think I've got time to tell you, I joined a development circle just after that. And did anybody here remember Woody Gilbert? Yeah. The Reverend Woody, or Woody Eldridge, as she later became. I was in her development class for 2 years. And after 2 years, I almost gave up because I thought I was getting nowhere. This is ridiculous. I'm coming here every week, 2 years, nothing is happening. So this is the night, it was going to be my last night. Now, Woody didn't know that. I hadn't told anybody that. So she says to me, Domenic, points at me in Woody style, Domenic, give that lady a reading. Yes, ma'am. You wouldn't say no to Woody. So I got up, and the person that I'm looking at is now a very, very good friend of mine. I won't mention any names. And in those days, I would do my readings with my eyes closed. And I hear this woman crying. I had my eyes up, and there she is, she's crying. Why are you crying? She said, you've just brought my father through. And I even described the particular clothing that he was wearing when she put him in his coffin to be buried. Now, that's scary. Because I actually saw all this in my head. And I'm just repeating what I'm saying. And I looked at Woody and I thought, oh my God, something actually has been happening for the past 2 years. I haven't known about it. So what did they do? I was on the verge of quitting, so they hung out the carrot out there. You grab it and go, oh. So, okay. Well, I didn't do another reading like that for another 5 years. But what they were trying to show me was, you think nothing's happening, but it is. It is. It's all slowly building up. So for those of you who are in circles or doing meditation, I want you just to keep persevering. Keep persevering. And the last thing I wanted to say is that I started my own physical phenomena circle after that. Well, this was probably around the time this church was built. I started a physical phenomena circle that ran for 8 years. We've got some pretty good phenomena through it. Probably the best that we got, I think, was these little balls of light about the size of a marble. And they'd sit on the table and sort of scurry around, and sometimes they'd run up your arm. You sit on your shoulder and they disappear. We've got a lot of table phenomena as well. The table whizzing around all over the place. But we did that for 8 years, and eventually we stopped. Because we wanted to push the thing further, but it didn't seem to go any further. We wanted to have direct voice and materialisations and things like that, but we couldn't do that. So let me conclude. Spirit prove themselves to me. Because when you come to the spiritualist philosophy, you're asked to believe only that which is in accordance with your understanding of things, your personal experiences. What is proof to you is different to another person's proof. For me, you can see that I was a hard-headed so-and-so. Some of Violet Eccles and Rosie Elmer were very, very patient people, let me tell you. My constant arguing and constant... somehow they knew that I was important to the philosophy, so they put up with me. It was very nice of them. But they proved themselves to me, and I promised to work for them. The proof, I have to tell you, was undeniable. My thing in life is to test systems. So when I see data and I see proof in front of me, I don't go hiding my head in the sand. I go where the data leads me. And in return, I had been given absolute joy. An absolute joy. Endless discoveries in this philosophy about who we are and what we are, and with an ever-increasing appreciation of how things work. Not just the things that we see in the normal world, but how things work between our dimension, next dimension, and I've even tried to include the one after that. Beyond that, the mind just doesn't cope. I don't think it's beyond anybody's, I think, ability to think in terms of fifth dimension stuff. There are many mysteries I have yet to resolve. The more I think I know, the more I realise how much more there is to learn. That's good. That's a good thing. You can't just sit on your behind and say, I know it all. You can't. But I am certain about this. Spiritualism is, to my knowledge, the only spiritual philosophy on the planet that can be tested by people, where you don't need faith, where you don't have to believe what people say from this platform just because it sounds good. You can actually test it, like I did. And if you're bent in that direction, you don't have to do that, but if you're bent in that direction like I am, you can do it. You just got some work into it. Spiritualism is one of the very few spiritual philosophies on the planet that has an understanding of what happens when we die. The Buddhists are pretty good at this. They understand that side of things as well. That's why I say one of the few spiritual philosophies. Spiritualism is, I believe, the only spiritual philosophy on the planet that offers real comfort to the dying and to the bereaved. And we can do that because we can tell them what's going to happen. And it's got nothing to do with belief systems, let me tell you. You can be an atheist and believe in nothing. And what happens to me will be exactly the same as what happens to you. Because it all of what's in here, how you've treated other people. That's the only thing the universe understands. It doesn't understand your belief system. It understands what's in your heart and how you've treated other people. And spiritualism has an important mission, and that is to tell those who are ready to receive the information, those who are ready to receive the information. That's why we don't stand on street corners. We don't do that. We find that people come to us when they're ready. When they're to receive the information that they are immortal spirits, loved by the Creator. That's what you are. You are an immortal spirit, loved by the Creator God. And whether you want to understand it or not is not an issue. It is a fact. That's all there is to it. It is what it is. It doesn't require your belief for that to be so. We may not be able to run an experiment that proves God's existence, but we can discover the truth if we strive hard enough to find the truth for ourselves. So you won't find God in a laboratory. It might be better if we could, I don't know. I'd have to think about that. But we can find that God within ourselves. And in the end, I also say this, in the end it is up to you. And I wish you all well on your spiritual journey.